Welcome back everyone to the Hello World guys. This is another episode of the C++ for Beginners series, and in this video we are going to learn about static variables. As I said in the last video, we are going to continue there. So the idea with static variables is that, for example, we have got an integer called id in our accounts constructor, and we are setting that id to the value of 1 when we are doing this. But actually that's not what you ideally want to do. You want stuff like id to be set automatically for each account, because you do not want to have duplicate ids, and if you let the program do it, then it might create duplicate ids, it might cause problem. So you want this id to be kind of one for everything. So I'm going to remove the id from the constructor, and for that we are going to use a static variable. The idea with static variables is that a static variable is essentially a variable that is being shared across all instances of a class. So let's see. If I go here, I'm going to go, like, after all of these we have got, I'm going to like go down here, and I'm going to go ahead and add in order to create a static variable, just say the word static, if I can actually type that. So static, and then you go ahead and just say like integer, and you can set this integer to whatever you want. For example, you can say static integer let's say next id. So let's call it next id. Yeah, no, not that. So with that done, the basic idea that we have got now is that this next id variable will be shared across all instances of the account class. So before we had got a couple of variables in our account class. So for example, we have got name, in id, and balance. And if we go under account.cpp, or let me show you. So basically, if you go under account.cpp, every account has got its own name, its own balance, and its own id. But the next id will be shared across all instances of the account class, and that is basically what we are going about. So this is basically a variable that will be shared across all instances of the class, and will be similar. So I'm going to go ahead and set this id to be next id. So I'm going to set the id of this object to be equal to the next id that we have got, which will be like that. So id, and we are going to we are going to increase the id by 1. So this id is remember, shared across all instances, and when we increase it by 1, the next class is going to get the increased version. But you can obviously make it a bit kind of easier to deal with by putting a plus sign here, right here, and there are two ways you can actually do that. Firstly, what you can do is you can actually kind of put this after, like I've done here, which means it will set the id to the next id. So it will take the id and takes its value to be the next id, and then it will increase the next id by 1 after setting the value. But you can actually do that easily by kind of like putting this next id with plus sign before. So if you do that, it will increase the next id by 1 first, and then it will set the id, which means that the id will start at 1, which is what I want. So I'm going to kind of keep it that way. So yeah, now let's go back in here, and obviously since our constructor does not require an id anymore, it's giving an error, so I'm going to remove that. And yeah, that's pretty awesome. So now we obviously need to add a new command to our transaction commands basically. So in order to do that, you might want to split this transaction thing over to 2 lines, and in order to do that, you can easily like put 2 strings together. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to kind of close this string here and open a new string. No, I made a mistake. Okay, here, and then open a new string. And what that does is basically it will put the 2 strings together like the gap did not exist, and you can use that to have multiple lines. So after doing that, we are going to go ahead, and before quit, I'm going to add another tab escape sequence, and then I'm going to add another command for I for info. And we are going to go ahead and add in another case here, case I, and we are going to call this for info. And obviously there is currently no way for us to actually get the info of our account variables, not the name, neither the id or balance. So in order to do that, I'm going to add 3 functions here. One of those is going to be a std colon string, so the return type is going to be std string, and I'm going to say from a capital, and I'm going to say name, and let's do that. And actually let's do this, and I'm going to remove the check balance here, because we don't need to check the balance anymore, because info will put everything in there. So let's just go ahead and actually, why not do this? So I'm going to remove this and do that, and then I'm going to change this C to be I instead. And with here, I'm going to remove the C check balance thing, and I'm going to only have info and quit, and maybe take this and I guess remove that as well, and put this in the next line like that. So that's much better looking. So we have already got balance here, and I'm going to put all of these kind of functions separately. So I'm going to actually, let me just press alt and move this up, And what I'm going to do is after balance we are going to also add in an ID. So I'm going to go ahead and add in an int called ID, and these are starting with capital, which is making them different than the variable. So these are actual functions, but these are not implemented. So just go ahead and press control period actually, oh, and create the definition. And that's pretty awesome. And then we are going to close this, and I'm going to go here and press control period and create the definition of this as well. Then I'm going to press this to open this up, and currently we are returning an empty string here. So we are going to return the actual name, and here with the ID I'm going to return the actual ID, and that should be pretty much enough to make our program work. And we just need to implement that to display the correct data now. So in order to do that, we are already putting our balance thing here, and actually I removed the case q while doing that, so let me add that back or else it will cause problems. So case q back here. So what we are going to do with this is we are going to go ahead and say cout. We are doing this currently. I'm not going to do that, but instead I'm going to say balance. And before doing balance we are going to say name and ID. So I'm going to say okay, let's not do that. Okay, let's basically go ahead and remove this. No, not that. Remove the period, and I'm going to take ahead and go ahead and copy kind of this thing here. So yeah, like that. I'm going to copy this, and then what I'm going to do is paste this twice here, but I'm going to obviously split this up into multiple lines so that it does not look that bad, because currently it's looking kind of terrible because you can't see what's going on really that easily. And yes, that's awesome. So I'm going to say the name here instead of the balance, obviously. So I'm going to say name like that, and here I'm going to say ID. So ID, and obviously we need to change the functions to be the correct ones as well, and this will put everything in neat columns. And after this we will add a tab instead of a normal thing that we are adding. I'm going to add a tab after this, and before the new thing I'm going to add a tab after this as well. But before the new thing starts I'm going to add in a new line, and I'm going to do the similar thing on this and add in a tab at the end, and that will make everything come out in neat steps. So let's actually test how our program goes. So let's start the program, and what you should see is that wait a while. Okay, it's giving me errors. Okay, one failed because next ID was it's giving an unresolved external symbol thing error, which I'm not sure why it's doing. Now the problem that we are getting is that this next ID is not initialized. We need to initialize this just like we initialize these functions, and the way you do that is by the way, you can actually just use the inline modifier if you are using newer version of C++. Else just go up here and you want to kind of say int, and then you want to say account like you do with functions, just like you do with function actually, colon, but you need to say next ID, and you need to set that to whatever value you want, and let's do 0 and 1 equal actually. Alright, and now that would work. So if I start, it should not give any errors at all, and it allows me to enter my name, and I'm going to enter my name as David, why not, and starting balance, let's say 689, and we are going to do deposit, and we are going to deposit let's say 11. Yeah, and that new balance is 700, and we are going to now withdraw, and we are going to withdraw 200, and new balance is 500. And then we are going to say info, and you can see it gives us the name as David, the ID as 1, and the balance as 500. And then we are going to press Q to quit, and that will work. Now one thing you might want to change is that since it's giving a bunch of problems, you might want to add 2 tabs here so that it can kind of make everything easier. So that everything is arranged in equal columns. And if I put something here, and if I go info now, you can see it looks much better. So this is pretty much it for this video. I will see you in the next one, in which we'll add more stuff to our games. Make sure not to our game, sorry, to our program, and make sure to stay tuned for that, and make sure to kind of practice this at home. And I will see you in the next one, and bye.